Alright, so we're checking out another flashlight on the channel today. This is from a new company. I've not reviewed one from this company before. They're called Klarus, and this is the XT21X Pro, and they do advertise this as a tactical flashlight. It's a little bit smaller than your typical tactical flashlight, but it's definitely larger than most of your EDC type flashlights. And just a quick look here on the box: 4400 lumens max, 336 meters throw distance, and some more specs here on the bottom. 200 hours max runtime, obviously on the lowest setting. 5000 milliamp hour battery. Does has a power bank function. IPX8 waterproof rated to 2 meters. Does have a dual tail switch here, primary switch for basically one-touch access, and then you have a mode switch here for strobe and low mode. Let's go ahead and get it out of the packaging here. So it's a little different than some of the other companies I reviewed in the past, but it looks pretty nice. Okay, right out of the box here we got some documentation, and it basically has a plastic insulation piece there to prevent the battery from self-discharging, so we'll go ahead and get that out of there. So underneath we got a little box here with some accessories: charging cable, lanyard, O-ring, manual. Okay, get a little bag here with some adapters, USB-C to lightning adapter, obviously for the power bank function, is your spare O-ring, and you have a USB-C to USB-A adapter, and you've got a wrist strap. So here's the USB-C to USB-C cable for charging. Interestingly, this one does include one of these 18650 to 21700 adapters. So it does include a 21700 cell inside, but if you want to use an 18650 instead, you just stick the 18650 cell inside here, and it just takes up a little more space to fit into the, basically, so it adapts it to a 21700 size. Alright, so here's the manual and specifications there in terms of dimensions. You can pause the video if you would like to read, and weighs 158 grams without the battery. So this is what they show in the manual in terms of user interface and how the buttons operate, because there's going to be a primary switch, a mode switch, and then there's a side switch as well. So I will go over this in the video, and go ahead and pause the video if you want to read this in detail, but basically this is how you're going to activate all of the different modes. There is basically standard default setting or tactical setting, or setting number 1, and then the switches operate in this fashion here, and then you can put into the number 2 outdoor setting, and the buttons will behave in this manner depicted here. Now it does look a little bit confusing, so I will try and go over that in the video. And in the bottom of the box there's some marketing materials here for some of their other models, but if you go to the link on their Amazon product page or their store, you can check out some of their other models if you are interested. Alright, so this is the holster that it comes in. Pretty standard, looks fairly nice, and obviously it goes onto a belt of some kind or backpack. You can use this back strap here, and it is using Velcro. You can pull the top part here out and then pull the flashlight out. And it's a pretty nice holster, fairly standard for flashlights these days. And here we go, take a look at the flashlight a little bit closer. One-way clip, not a two-way clip, but it's a bit heavy. I wouldn't want to put it on a hat anyway, but you can rotate this around. So if you want to line it up with, say, like the charging port, for example, you can do that. So you got your side switch over here. Nice little grip. Feels pretty decent in the hand, and in terms of accessing the buttons here, seems to be okay. Got your main primary switch here, and then you got your momentary mode switch here, so 3 switches. So we'll go ahead and take the bottom off here and take the battery out. Got a nice big spring here, and you got your insulating paper to protect the battery. And here is the cell, Klarus branded, 15 amp discharge, 21700 size, 18 watt hours. Pretty standard. Button top here. and doesn't really come out on camera, but there is a spring on the inside as well, so you can use flat top batteries if you want. And again, you can use 18650s with the adapter. Taking a look at the reflector here and the LED element, it's got a sort of a textured reflector, so it does soften the beam a little bit in terms of the center part being so harsh. The charge port here is protected with this silicone rubber flap for waterproof in terms of keeping water out. Okay, so before I get into the demo, I do want to show you the different lumen levels. I think I forgot to show this chart earlier. So basically, you have a moonlight mode, low, medium, high, and then turbo. Obviously the max turbo, 4400 lumens, and then moonlight down to 5 lumens. So it's pretty nice. Strobe is the max turbo, and then you have an SOS mode at 100 lumens. Obviously, if you're using the most amount of power, the runtime is going to be the lowest here, so 2.5 hours on turbo. And of course, as the brightness increases, your beam distance also increases, a maximum of 336 meters. So for about this brightness, it is typical around that beam reach, so nothing to complain about there. Now again, showing you the user interface chart here. So there's 3 buttons, and I find that this is quite confusing. So there's basically 2 main modes: a sort of default mode, tactical setting, and an outdoor setting mode. And then it does explain here how to change the different modes here with this chart. I am not a big fan of 3 buttons and trying to figure this out. So I'm just going to show you what worked for me. Obviously you can switch to different modes if you want to go through a different way of accessing the different settings. But basically, you just have the turbo, high, medium, low, moonlight, strobe, and SOS. And you can access everything via the standard default mode. I did not seem to follow the tactical outdoor setting mode. It just seemed like it was not working for me. I'm not really sure if it was my problem or if this was not properly depicted, but I will show you what I was able to get into on the standard setting. Okay, so pressing the primary button, or just half pressing it, will go into turbo mode right away. And then you can click, and I'll keep it on. Click again, I'll turn it off. If you just want to use it as obviously as a tactical setting, you can just press and hold and then release, and I'll turn it off. If you use the mode switch here on the side, this is a momentary switch. If you press that, it goes right into strobe mode. So for those of you that are sensitive to bright lights, you might want to fast forward through this part of the video. Basically, you can press it, get your strobe mode, release, it turns off. If you press and hold for 2 seconds, it'll keep it on. So you can see I released it, staying on. To turn it off, press it again. Okay, so if you turn it on via the primary switch, you go right into turbo mode, and we'll cycle through the different levels. In the documentation here, it does not show low, but it does do that, so I'll turn it on. Got your turbo. Press this mode switch here to cycle, so that's turbo. High, medium, low, and then moonlight, very, very dim. And then if you press it again, it goes right into turbo, and then you can click to turn it off. So if you'd rather use the side switch here to operate the different levels, you can click this button to go into turbo, and then click again to go into, there's high, medium, low, and there's moonlight again, and then it'll go right back again, cycles back into turbo, and then long press to turn it off. If you would rather go straight into moonlight mode, you can press and hold the button, and there it goes right into moonlight mode. Click the button, and it goes into turbo, and then long press to turn it off. If you double click the button, it will go into a strobe mode. Again, there's your strobe mode, and double click again. That will bring up the SOS mode. And then click again, and it turns it off. Okay, so go ahead and take this outside at a dark area, and we'll see how all these different modes look in the dark. Alright, testing the Klarus, and I'm going to go straight into turbo mode. That's the main switch. So that's turbo, that's high, medium, low, and moonlight mode. So I can see it fairly well, but it doesn't really reach too far. And we'll try this again, back to turbo. There's a train coming from over there. You guys can see that train over there. I'll light up that train pretty good, actually. Probably right at the end of the reach of this flashlight. But turbo's pretty good. There's high. Medium. Pointing at the tree. There's low. So good lining up that ground here, but not much in front. That was a very long train. Back to moonlight mode and turbo again. There's that train still going. You can see there, I can see those trees over there to the right. Not that furthest tree in the corner, it's not really lit up too well. But this closer tree is over here. And I'm not sure if you guys can still hear that. The train is really loud. A lot of cars on this train. It just keeps on going. Alright, so I'll move the camera around as I'm pointing. It's turbo again. Hopefully you can still hear me over the train. Camera is having a hard time focusing. So, go to high. So these closer trees here are no problem on high. And the train is gone, but still blaring its horn. So that's high, low, and I was medium, then it's low. And here's moonlight. So if I'm close here, I'm pointing at the ground. Moonlight mode works okay, but as you go further away, it loses its effectiveness, as to be expected. All right, I'm gonna walk in front with turbo on here, and you guys can get a sense of what it looks like from a distance as I'm pointing it in front of me here. Yeah, it's totally adequate for this small area. The beam reaches fine, but yeah. Anyway, I think that's gonna cover for this video. Link in the video description if you guys want to check it out. Got any questions, let me know in the comment section below. I'll talk to you guys in the next video.